I was living in Warsaw at the time. I was in a relationship with a Polish woman, and I tried to become European by moving to Warsaw. And I was feeling very inspired by the city, and I was also feeling quite challenged by the reality of moving to Europe. And so I wanted to make a movie. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's also a great way to make friends and a great way to get to know a community. And so I thought, I'm going to make a movie in Warsaw. The experience of filming in Warsaw was actually really similar to all my other movies because of the way that I make movies. It's so small. It's really with a really small group of people who are my friends, and I'm not really even using local crew or local infrastructure, so it doesn't matter where I am, it kind of ends up being a very similar experience. By making a movie so small, it means you're able to kind of navigate the real world very fluidly and almost invisibly. And because of that, it just means that the experience I'm having is quite similar. It was challenging because I don't speak Polish. It meant I needed to rely on the few Polish friends who were my crew to navigate the city and to interact with some of the locations that we were shooting at. But beyond that, it was much the same. Because I make films so independently, it's not that like there are laws that I have to follow, but because I'm a human and I want the experience to be good and fun, I generally adhere to those similar working hours. I was shooting relatively 12-hour days and always having 12-hour turnarounds, meaning there's time to sleep, there's time to rest. And that's just because these laws, these rules are in place for a reason, and because we want to enjoy ourselves, we want to stay safe, we want to stay healthy, and all those things are important to making a good movie and having a good time. The crew was, there were 4 people who weren't always there on set either. Sometimes it would be one person, so like 1 to 4 people. These were my friends of Lena, and each of them were wearing multiple hats. The way that I like to make movies is very much how I made videos with my friends when I was 15 years old, and at that time, there wasn't a hierarchy. Everyone was taking turns doing everything, taking turns holding the camera, taking turns being in front of the camera. And while on these movies I'm making, I am very much the director and I am holding the camera, I like everyone to be very hands-on and very engaged. So these crew members are doing many a thing. It's not that each person has their clearly defined role. It's really just a group of people getting together and making a movie, and whoever wants to do, whatever anyone wants to do, they should do. Yeah, I really like the metaphor of a sandbox. It's like, put me in a sandbox. That's like the definition, those are the limitations, but within that you can do whatever you want with the sand. So it is a group of kids in a sandbox playing together, building sandcastles, and for me it's very much disconnected from the end result, that it's really about the process over the product. So the play that we are having in this sandbox is what the most important thing is. And I do that to relieve pressure, because I don't think pressure is useful in the creative process. And I think when you don't feel pressure, you feel more free to come up with ideas and take risks and to try things and to not be self-conscious and not be afraid. And that's my preferred mindset to make anything. Everything I do for how I make movies is not traditional. So the way I do casting, there's no auditions, there's no casting director. Generally, everything I do is some sort of conversation with the universe. So for the actors, it's like, who is around? Who have I met recently? What new actor friends do I have that I feel inspired by? And who's available? So based on what the location is and the time of year that I'm planning on shooting and who is in my my orbit that I have good feelings about, that I have some sort of intuitive feeling that this is a person I'd be interested in working with and making something with, then I just start talking with them, checking to see if they're free. If they are free and they are interested in having this adventure with me, then we start figuring out what the movie is going to be together. So again, everything I do is not traditional. So there isn't a screenplay. We start with a location. I start with a location. I start with these actors. I start with a few little ideas that I present to the actors. And then we have conversations about these ideas, about the kind of characters they might want to play. And from those conversations, I make at least half of an outline of the movie, which is generally about 20 bullet points of just a list of the scenes that we're going to do. And that's what we start production with. We write the dialogue the night before or the morning of in the Notes app on an iPhone. Each scene is a note. I will write a first draft and then I'll text that to the group chat. So everyone has it on their phone too, and it updates live. They're able to edit it as well. And usually over a meal, over breakfast or dinner, we will work through the scenes that we're going to be shooting the next day. And it's a really fun way to do it. The movie overall is it connects to so many things for me, but one of the things it kind of connects to is something about this modern experience we're all having thanks to technology and thanks to our phones and thanks to the algorithm and these feeds and how it makes it really seem like we are the main character, that the world is revolving around us, because if we talked about camping, our phones would start giving us ads for camping gear. And it makes us feel really important. And that can be dangerous. That can lead to us becoming less considerate of others. I think this is one of the negative side effects of these phones and this way of existing, that we feel like we're connected, but that we're actually less connected. At the same time, the idea of coincidences, the idea of feeling special, I think is beautiful. And I enjoy that feeling as well. The reason volcanoes are part of the movie is purely through coincidence, was just me telling a story about how I was living in Warsaw and somebody else telling a story about how they were stuck in Warsaw because a volcano erupted in Iceland in 2010. The way Charlie XCX is in this movie is just through coincidence, that I was at a bar in New York City at 3 o'clock in the morning and she walked into that bar. These are big coincidences. They can mean something or they could mean nothing, and it's sort of our choice to project significance onto these things in our lives. And I like doing it. I like feeling like my life has meaning. And the challenge is to sort of find the balance between these things of how special are you and how special is everyone else, and is there a way to navigate life in a way that that we can enjoy, that we can feel special, but isn't necessarily hurting other people along the way. The first film, my first narrative feature film, I made the normal way, where I wrote a script and I found somebody to give me money and I had a casting director and I got a crew together and we made this movie. And for me, it wasn't that fun. It made me question, why am I even doing this? And for me, the reason I'm doing it is because it was fun when I was 15 years old. And so I wondered, why don't I do that? Why don't I do it that way? And even though it seemed so simple, I still felt all this pressure on what does that mean about me? Does that mean it's pointless? That it's just for fun? And I decided to reject pressure and just to just let go. It's almost becomes this sort of Buddhist mentality, this Jedi mind trick on myself, that nothing matters, nobody cares, nobody wants to see your movie, none of that actually matters, What matters is the human connections that I'm going to get to have by going out with some friends and making something together. And by just staying focused on that dream, on that experience, and essentially letting everything else go, it creates a lot of freedom, and it ultimately creates a lot of confidence within me, because it's become so simple. Because it's not even about the movie being good. It's literally just about getting to the location with the people that I like and starting to play. And the second that has happened, I've already succeeded, and thus I already feel like I've won. And the thing I then do is just kind of like rinse and repeat that. It's not connected to the end product, the end destination. It's just all about the journey. So if you are able to disconnect from end results, they're like, the challenges are all actually opportunities. If you could say that it started to rain and you hadn't planned on that, and that could be frustrating, but if you're just open for anything to be anything, that becomes something you're really grateful for. The specifics of filming in Warsaw is what was challenging for me, because I don't speak Polish. And normally when I make these small movies, I'm also doing them in essentially one location. And this movie was a city movie, so we were going around to a bunch of different locations. I was, we're getting on and off of trams and using public transportation and climbing up and down stairs, and all the while, like, I can't talk. I can't communicate with the world. Of course, people speak English, but every so often you encounter a situation where it would have helped to be able to speak Polish. And so that was certainly one of the challenges. It meant I did have to rely on the Polish crew members who were helping, and let go. But again, because of how I define the whole parameters of what I'm making, I'm fully ready to let go. I'm not. It's not that I'm holding on to some very, very specific vision of what I need something to be. And in that way, these challenges also become completely surmountable as opposed to insurmountable. So I did not go to film school. I studied computer science. And although I was making videos with my friends since I was a kid, I never like learned the correct way to do it. And what I sort of arrived at is almost like a formula for a feature film. So I once heard that in like a Hollywood screenplay, each scene should be 2 pages long, or 2 minutes long, right? A minute per page. And so what I do is we shoot 3 scenes a day. That's going to be 6 minutes of movie per day. We shoot for 12 shooting days. So 12 times 6 is 72. And so all these movies that use this formula end up being between 70 and 80 minutes long. And that's just how it is. 12 shooting days is a short enough time that most anyone can fit that into their life, into their schedule. And it's also not so long that it interrupts with other things, like a job you might have. You could get time off to do it. And then it's also long enough to make a feature film. It's a short feature film, but it is a feature film. And so that's just like what we do. That's how it works. And whatever sort of like fits within that sandbox, within those parameters, is what we end up making. If we wanted the movie to be longer, we would need to add more days, but we don't, so we don't. I know, we know that there are things we don't understand in the world, in life, in the universe. And and then we have a choice for how to engage with those things that we don't understand. I like the idea of magic. I think the world is more fun if magic is real. So I choose to believe in magic. Um, I choose to believe that I'm in conversation with the universe, and that the energy I put out is somehow sent back to me, and that if I'm open enough and sensitive enough that I can receive messages from it. That just seems like a more fun way to move through life than to say magic isn't real.